Ever find yourself kind of sucked into that phone vortex? Like you'd be scrolling through the news and then, bam, you're 3 hours deep in some random TikTok thread. And you're like, wait, what was I doing?
Yeah, the digital rabbit hole, it gets us all.
Right. And it makes you think, how on earth are kids supposed to, like, focus on school stuff with that kind of temptation constantly buzzing in their pocket?
It's the million-dollar question in education these days.
Totally. So today, we're diving into this whole smartphone in-school debate, but with a twist.
Hmm.
We're looking at a proposal from the Department of Technology, and get this, it goes way beyond just banning phones outright.
Yeah, this is interesting stuff.
So their big idea, right? They're saying that maybe, just maybe, banning phones in schools is actually riskier than we think. Like, what if instead of forcing a digital detox, we found ways to make smartphones work for learning and, get this, safety?
It's a fascinating angle, isn't it? The Department of Technology makes a really compelling point. When we completely ban phones, we're essentially cutting students off from this digital world they live in, and that disconnect, that could actually make them less safe.
So it's not just about kids goofing off on Instagram during algebra. It's about, like, genuine safety concerns.
Exactly. Think about it. In an emergency, a phone can be a lifeline. It's a way to get information, connect with family, even call for help. If we take that away, especially during a time when they might need it most, it's like,
Huh.
well, it's a bit like cutting off a lifeline.
That's a side we don't always consider. It's easy to get stuck on the distraction part, but the safety angle, that's huge.
Yeah.
So how does the Department of Technology want to fix this? They're talking about some kind of app, right?
Yep. A student-centric app is the core of their proposal. They're imagining something specifically designed for students, packed with features that address both sides of the coin. Focus A&D, safety. Think, customizable focus modes, app blockers, things that'll appeal to teachers and parents. But then you've also got direct access to emergency contacts.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's less about phones are evil and more about, like, let's use tech to manage tech. But building an app like that can't be easy, right? There's got to be challenges.
Oh, tons. I mean, just imagine the technical hurdles. You've got to think about privacy, especially if you're allowing emergency contacts. And then there's the issue of making it essentially foolproof. We both know how resourceful teenagers can be when it comes to tech.
Yeah. Good luck with that. So it's a real balancing act, giving students the tools to be smart digital citizens, but also, you know, carving out space for them to actually learn. But how would this whole app thing actually work in, like, a real life situation? I mean, the Department of Technology didn't just throw out this app idea. They actually came up with some pretty intense scenarios, right?
Oh, yeah, they went there. They laid out a bunch of different crisis situations to show how this app could play out in real time, highlighting, both the good and the bad, the potential and the complexities.
Right. Like a what if for the digital age.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump into their first scenario. It's 11:30 a.m., Jefferson High School. Just a normal day until, bam, lockdown. There's a threat, and the school's got to go into emergency mode. The Department of Technology, they present the situation in two ways. First, with their app in action, and then what happens without it.
It's a brilliant way to show the contrast, really drives the point home.
So with the app, if a lockdown happens, kids aren't suddenly, like, free to browse Reddit, right? But that emergency contact feature, that's active.
Exactly. So picture this. You're a student. That announcement comes over, the loudspeaker lockdown, your heart's pounding right. What's the first thing you do? Reach for your phone. Now, with the app, even if everything else is locked down, you can still call your parents, let them know you're safe. Maybe even get in touch with someone from the school directly. That connection, that ability to cut through the panic, it could make a world of difference.
It's all about maintaining that lifeline when it matters most. But let's flip the script. Same scenario, but this time no app. Just the school's strict no phone policy.
And that's where things get really interesting. And by interesting, I mean potentially way more stressful. Because now, not only are the students cut off, but so are their families. That anxiety, that not knowing, it just multiplies.
And all because of a lack of information. Okay, so we've seen how this app could be like a digital lifeline during a lockdown. But the Department of Technology, they didn't stop there. They also imagined a medical emergency, something that hits even closer to home for a lot of families.
And they chose a scenario that's unfortunately all too common in schools these days, a student having a severe allergic reaction.
And it's one of those situations where, like, every second counts, you know?
Absolutely. Every minute matters.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're at Lincoln Middle School, 2:00 p.m., middle of science class. Our student, let's call him Alex, he's, just hanging out, and then, he accidentally eats something he's severely allergic to.
It happens so fast. 1 minute, everything's fine, the next.
Exactly. So The teacher, they realize what's going on right away,
Mm.
call for the school nurse. But in the meantime, Alex is, having a reaction. Now, this is where the Department of Technology's app comes in. See, even though Alex's phone is like locked down during class, it can still make calls to emergency contacts.
Yeah.
It even has a special medical alert feature.
Right, so it's not just about giving access, it's about prioritizing.
Exactly. So while the nurse is on their way, Alex can use his phone to call his parents, let them know what's going on. And get this, the app can even send like an instant alert to the nurse with all of Alex's allergy information.
It's that direct line, that instant sharing of critical information that can make all the difference in a situation like that.
It's like instead of losing precious minutes trying to track down information, it's
Yes.
all right there. But of course, the Department of Technology, they also walk us through what happens if Alex doesn't have that app.
And it highlights the potential downside of a strict no-phone policy in a really stark way, because even if the school does everything right, call 911, try to reach Alex's parents those minutes that tick by.
While they're trying to connect, trying to relay that information.
Exactly. Those minutes can feel like hours when you're talking about something like anaphylactic shock.
It's a good reminder that sometimes, as basic as it sounds, a phone call is still the fastest way to get someone the help they need.
It's easy to forget that when we're so used to having all this technology at our fingertips, but sometimes it's the simplest solutions that are the most effective.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these scenarios, they force us to ask a tough question. Are we willing to prioritize the chance of a kid getting distracted by their phone over the chance of that same phone saving their life or someone else's?
It's a moral dilemma, no doubt about it, and it's one we need to be talking about more and more as technology becomes even more integrated into our lives.
No easy answers. Okay, so we've covered lockdowns, allergic reactions.
Hmm.
The Department of Technology, they weren't messing around with these scenarios because next up, they throw a natural disaster into the mix.
Yeah, they up the ante. This time, it's an earthquake, right? A major one. And they use the scenario to show how this technology could be a game changer, not just inside the school, but for the whole community.
Okay, so picture this. Ridgeview High School, mid-morning, everything's normal, and then boom, earthquake hits. We're talking like the ground is shaking, lights are flickering, the whole 9 yards.
Chaos.
Total chaos. Kids are freaking out, teachers are trying to keep everyone calm, and of course, everyone's reaching for their phones.
Which, in a way, makes sense. It's a natural human instinct in a crisis. Try to connect, get information.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. In the Department of Technology scenario, where their app is in place, the school's emergency system, it's like directly linked to every student's phone. So even though, Instagram and Snapchat and all that are locked down, they can still get real-time updates, evacuation routes, the whole deal.
Right, because who cares about what your friends had for breakfast when there's an earthquake happening? You need accurate information, and you need it fast.
Exactly. It's about cutting through all that noise and getting straight to what matters. And what's even cooler, it works both ways. Parents can get alerts about their kids' status, let them know they're okay, even if they can't get through on the phone lines, because let's face it, those are probably jammed.
Oh, totally. It's like a digital safety net for families. But let's flip it. Same earthquake, same chaos, but this time, no app. Just a straight-up phone ban.
And suddenly, you've got a recipe for mass panic.
Pretty much. Students can't get in touch with their families, rumors start flying. It creates this whole other level of fear and confusion on top of an already terrifying situation.
It's amazing how quickly things can spiral, right? Like, just the lack of that communication lifeline can make a bad situation way worse. What's interesting to me is how these scenarios, they really expose this hidden cost of just blanket banning all technology.
It's like we're so focused on one side of the coin, the distraction, the potential for misuse, that we forget about the other side. The connection, the access to information, the potential to literally save lives.
It's like, yeah, sure, smartphones can be distracting, but they can also be absolute lifesavers. And those two things, they're not mutually exclusive. So instead of that big no phones allowed sign, the Department of Technology is saying, hey, maybe there's a better way. Like, let's acknowledge that these devices, they're part of our kids' lives. So how do we work with that instead of just trying to shut it down completely?
Exactly. It's about finding a way to harness the power of this technology for good without just pretending it doesn't exist.
Okay, so we've talked about the how this app, this more nuanced approach, but what about the what if? Like, let's say this app actually happens, schools start using it, it's on every student's phone.
Yeah.
How could that change things? Not just in the classroom, but like the whole educational landscape.
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? This kind of technology has the potential to radically change the way we think about
I
education.
mean, we're already seeing technology change
Hmm.
education, right? But this app, this feels different, like bigger somehow.
It is different because it's not just adding tech to education, it's weaving it into the very fabric of how kids learn.
And that's exciting, but it's also kind of daunting, you know?
Yeah.
Like, are we ready for that?
That's the question, isn't it? And honestly, there's no easy answer. But one thing's for sure, we can't just throw technology at the problem and hope for the best. We've got to be smarter than that.
So where do we even begin? If this is the future, how do we prepare for it?
Well, we've touched on some of the big ones: privacy, access, training for teachers. Those are all crucial.
Uh-huh.
But there's another layer we haven't really gotten into yet, and it's a big one:
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
the human element.
The human element.
Yeah. We can design the most amazing app, the most foolproof system, but at the end of the day, it's still people using it. And people, well,
Oh.
we're complicated.
That's an understatement. Okay, so how do we factor that in? The humanness of it all.
By remembering that technology, it's just a tool. It's not a magic solution. So we need to be teaching our kids how to be good digital citizens, how to think critically about the information they're bombarded with every day, how to use these tools responsibly, ethically, even creatively.
It's like we're so busy trying to keep up with the technology itself, we forget that there are actual human beings, little humans, who are trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And those little humans, they're going to be the ones shaping the future. Our job is to give them the tools, but more importantly, the skills to do it well.
So it's not about if smartphones have a place in education, it's about how. How do we make this work? How do we make it work well?
And that's a conversation that needs to involve everyone: teachers, parents, policymakers, even the tech companies themselves.
It's a team effort.
100%.
This whole conversation, it really drives home the point that this Department of Technology proposal, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's sparking a much bigger conversation, a conversation about the future of education, a future that's, well, it's already here, isn't it?
It is, and it's a future that's full of possibilities.
Hmm.
But it's also a future that demands a lot from us. It demands that we think differently, that we adapt, that we never stop learning.
And that we never stop talking to each other about these issues, about these challenges, about how to make sure that technology, it brings us together, not pulls us apart.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think we've done our part for today. We've explored the issues, we've dissected the scenarios, we've even pondered the philosophical implications of teenagers with smartphones.
It's been a journey.
It has. But now we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this whole smartphone in school dilemma? Do you think the Department of Technology is on the right track with this app idea? Head over to our social media pages and let us know what you think. And hey, if you found this deep dive thought-provoking, share it around. Let's keep this conversation going.